This episode is for the writer who sits down at her computer and realizes that she's not having fun anymore. You may have started off feeling lit up, inspired, and creative, but now everything feels flat. You're opening your document because you feel like you have to, not because you actually want to or feel that you're making progress. But here's the thing. You will not ever finish if you are writing to check a box because you feel like you have to. So today, I want to help you tap back into what it would feel like to come at your memoir draft with creativity again. So let's get into it. You are listening to the Memoir Method podcast, the place for writers, readers, and anyone who appreciates the collective power of our stories. In this podcast, we explore the impact of memoir alongside an examination of writing techniques and strategies used in the genre. Whether you are a writer looking for inspiration and guidance or a passionate reader seeking meaningful connections through shared experiences, the Memoir Method podcast is your go-to conversation spot. I'm your host, Charlotte, editor, writer, and the heart behind Charlotte Writes. Let's get started. Before we get into the meat of today's episode, I want you to know that I love hearing from you through the podcast. I love hearing what lands for you and what your takeaways are, and also your questions. You can find me on Instagram at Charlotte Jane Writes, or you can just email me at hello@bookishhabits.com. You are the reason why I do what I do, and I love to hear from you and hear about how this work impacts your own writing. So please never hesitate to reach out. I really love hearing from everyone who wants to chat and connect. You can also find all the links of where to find me in the show notes. So let's get into what I actually want to talk about today. We're going to start with talking about what I call first draft energy. This is the fresh start. I'm doing something new energy. We all know what this is like, whether it's with your writing, whether it's with a house project, anything new and creative that you are starting and excited about, that's first draft energy. So first draft energy is where you are at your most idealistic in all the best ways. This is where you feel that spark to write because you know that your story is going to help people. This is where you are so excited that your fingers can hardly wait to get to the keyboard and the words just flow out. That's the best feeling. First draft energy is the most fun state to be in. And I personally love first draft energy. Every word that you write feels like progress, and it's all you can think about for a few days, sometimes ideally even a few weeks, sometimes months. Sometimes you can maintain that first draft energy for a few months. That's also very, very fun. I want every single one of you to experience first draft energy, especially at the beginning. No one should write their memoir if you feel like you should. Doing things that we should is rarely a fun experience. You should clean the bathroom. You should balance your budget. You should change your sheets. If you're writing your memoir, do it because you want to, not because it feels like an assignment. Sometimes I will have writers come into my spaces feeling that sense of obligation. It feels flat. It feels like, oh, I just have to do this. That's not fun. We want to change that. We want to help you tap back into first draft energy. So the spark and passion is what you can tap back into to get you moving through the less glamorous parts of memoir writing and editing. But the trick is knowing how to tap back into that first draft energy. Most writers lose that first draft energy, really get into that slump, probably around draft 3 or 4, somewhere in revisions. And all of a sudden, you don't actually know what you're writing or if it makes any sense. I cannot tell you how many writers have come into free 30-minute calls with me saying, I can't find the thread of my story. I don't really know what it is that I'm writing. You're feeling confused yourself and you feel lost, and you cannot feel creative if you're feeling lost. You cannot feel creative if you don't have clarity. So this is where you will reach out to an editor hoping that they will be able to make sense of your work and give you a path forward. Sometimes you might walk away from that experience disappointed. I've mentioned this in another episode. I have worked with writers who have worked with other editors, and it has not been the experience that they wanted. So maybe you thought that working with an editor would bring that spark back to your writing. You're kind of looking outward to a professional to help make you excited about what you're doing again, or zhuzh it up so that you think it's good again, because then you would know what to fix, or they would fix it for you. But their feedback was iterating to you maybe a lot of what you already knew about your manuscript without giving you insights on how to fix it. Or their feedback didn't feel right. You felt like, well, I don't think they actually get what I'm doing. Yeah, I know that I'm a little muddied on what I'm actually trying to say, but I know that it's not that, right? So this is a slightly different conversation from what we're having today, but this is the difference between an editor and a writing coach. If you're wanting a more hands-on editing experience, then you might actually be looking for an editor who is also a writing coach and offers those high-touch coaching services. So you can check the link in the show notes for more information on that, because that is my specialty, my little hybrid way of working with you. But this first draft energy, when you go to an editor looking to them to give it back to you or to fix that, that's one way, kind of outsourcing or relying on someone else to give you that first draft energy back. You will usually be disappointed. Also, first draft energy dissipates when you are overwhelmed. When writing and revising feels like a chore, or when you keep procrastinating, not because you don't actually want to do the work, but because you don't know how. You're at a place where you don't know what you don't know. You've done everything that you can do on your own, and it's frustrating. Unfortunately, tapping back into first draft energy isn't just about getting excited by the idea of your memoir the same way that you did at the very beginning. It gets to be elevated. It gets to be refined. The way that you come at your draft now gets to be more than just vibes, which is first draft energy really is just really good vibes, right? So you need to remember why you were excited at the beginning of this process. Why did you want to write your memoir? What about your story made you think other people need this too? Who were you thinking about when you decided to sit down and put pen to proverbial paper? Because I can guarantee you that you weren't actually thinking about you. You weren't thinking about what happened to you. You were thinking about why what happened to you mattered. You were thinking about how your story could help someone. You were thinking in a bigger picture than just yourself. So even though you probably weren't able to articulate this at the time, again, first draft energy is really high vibes. So maybe this was not articulated well in your mind, but you felt it. But you had this inner knowing, this inner clarity that was driving your creativity. You cannot be creative if you don't have clarity. And that's what you get to unearth again, to unlock the creative gates, to start to feel excited about your work again. So tapping back into first draft energy means that you get to get crystal clear on what you're writing, who you're writing for, and why you're writing it. Tapping back into first draft energy means that you start thinking and moving like an author, not just a writer. You start to see yourself and your story as puzzle pieces in a bigger purpose. You start to see yourself as a leader of a conversation that's bigger than your actual story. And I can guarantee you that's what you felt when you started writing. You weren't writing for you. Maybe you didn't know exactly who you were writing for yet, or you had a vague idea, but I promise you that your first draft energy didn't come from you focusing on you. And when you get in your head, when you get overwhelmed, that's usually one of the roots of that creative block. So let's talk about how this clarity plays out with writers. This is exactly what I unlock with writers I work with. I do this through my one-on-one memoir development work and through my self-paced program, the Memoir Method. I walk with you to zoom out of your manuscript. When you come to me with a manuscript, you are so in it that it's overwhelming. You cannot see the forest for the trees. That is your problem. You're just spinning around and around in your own writing, not making any progress, even though you are spending hours editing. So what we do with my one-on-one memoir development and with the Memoir Method is to zoom out, tap back into that fun creative part of writing. And we take that renewed creative spark and apply it in a very strategic way to what you've already spent hours writing. The writers that I've coached through this process have finally finished their memoir manuscripts. The revisions feel not only productive and efficient, but fun and creative and meaningful again, just like when they first started writing. This is what I'm really good at. This is my favorite part of what I do as a writing coach who is also an editor, is to help you tap back into why you're doing this, to help you understand and identify the point of your memoir, the message of it, and then working with you to amplify that through your story and your voice. If you want to talk about which option would be best for you, either the one-on-one memoir development or the self-paced memoir method program, please email or DM me, and I'd love to chat with you about your memoir, your writing, and where you're feeling the most resistance and frustration right now, because that's actually going to tell me a lot about what work we would do to unblock you. Looking ahead to this fall, we're already into October. I can take only a handful of new one-on-one memoir development clients right now. So if that is what you're interested in, please reach out sooner rather than later. And looking ahead to the podcast, in October, the memoir that I'm taking through my Why It Works or Not series is a very special one for me. I'm walking you through the ins and outs of the memoir published by my very first memoir client. This month, we're going deep into Renegade Agency by Andrea Verbanek. I will also be interviewing her for the podcast, where we're going to talk about her experience self-publishing her work. You can buy a copy of Renegade Agency through the link in the show notes. I cannot recommend it enough, and I'm really excited to bring you behind the scenes of how Andrea and I shaped her story into one that carries the impact that she's really, really passionate about. Thank you so much for joining me today. I want you to feel excited about your memoir. I want you to have fun when you revise. I want you to feel that jolt of creativity, inspiration, and purpose as you write and edit. Remember that the resistance you're feeling right now is just an invitation to recenter yourself as the author. You can find me on Instagram through my email list and on my website. All of the links, including links to book a free 30-minute call and to directly enroll in the Memoir Method, are all in the show notes. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next week. You've just listened to an episode of the Memoir Method podcast. The Memoir Method podcast is presented by Charlotte Writes. If you liked what you heard, the best way to support the show is to subscribe through your preferred podcast player. And if you're feeling especially inspired, I'd love it if you left a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Leaving a review really does help other readers and writers like yourself find the show. If you want to continue the conversation, you can find me on my website at charlottewrites.co or on Instagram at charlottejanewrites. Thank you for tuning in. I'll see you next time. And remember that you have a story that matters.